Hello everybody, welcome to the Centbee show. I'm your host Lorien Gamaroff and my co-host is merch-wielding Kage Ntshingila. How are you doing, Kage?
Good in you, Mr. G.
I have to just talk about your merch, Kage. In fact, because this merch went down a treat at the blockchain conference.
Yeah.
Everybody was coming to the booth to get some Centbee merch.
Especially this one, man. This didn't even last a day, I think.
Everyone loves BSV.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we keep promising we're going to get a merch store going, and now that we've got some great tees and we've got some great hoodies, we've got some hats.
Yeah.
Maybe now's the time to get the store on the website.
I think it's justified now. Yeah, we have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great way to express the brand.
Yeah.
I mean, Centbee is a youthful brand.
Yeah.
We're targeting 16 to 25-year-old students and teenagers.
Yeah.
That's what Centbee's for, and it's really great to be able to have a brand where you can just have some fun.
Yeah.
The booth that we had at the London Blockchain Conference was just all fun. It was so colourful and exciting and fresh. Yeah. It's great not just building a wallet, but thinking, how can we make this appealing to young people who are on their mobiles and wanting to activate their lifestyle? So it's really great to be able to have really cool merch.
But that's the thing, we have to nail it. It's not even a matter of trying, you must get it right, appeal to the cooler kids out there,
Yeah.
So at least for us, we have tried to, our app speaks for itself, for the fact that you can shop all these cool stuff. I'm sure in the near future we'll be able to shop our merch in our app.
Absolutely, we're going to have to get Centbee merch in there.
Yeah.
But speaking of shopping, of course, Centbee is a wallet. We are trying to make our wallet useful to young people.
Yeah.
You don't have to be only young. I mean, you can be old too. I use Centbee wallet, and I'm a geezer. Being able to shop, being able to send money to your parents if you live in a different country, being able to chat. That's really what Centbee is about, and that's why we use the phrase "activate your lifestyle," because typically, if you just have cash and you don't have a credit card or a bank card, how do you pay for things like Uber or how do you shop online?
Yeah.
So Centbee is all about trying to make it easy for you to be able to do the things that you want to do, buy the things that you want to buy that makes your lifestyle fun and exciting and activates it.
Yeah.
Doing all that sort of thing. So that's really a very strong and important focus around Centbee is the shopping.
Yeah, that's true, Ms. G, because also what people don't pick up, maybe on the business side of things, is how we are trying to create a bridge between merchants and a normal user, and by trying to activate them in a way that they couldn't before,
Yeah.
So we are literally trying to grow the adoption from both ends. Mm-hmm. And it's only a matter of time till actually businesses start accepting BSV as payment.
Yeah, that's right. So that's what we want to do, is we want to make a wallet that is fun to use, that has our youthful market in mind. Mm-hmm. And now just speaking about the shopping options, of course, we're always trying to add more merchants. Yeah. That's really an ongoing drive for us. Recently, if you have been using Centbee and you've gone to your country and you've looked at the stores, you might notice that some of the stores are missing. That's just because we are still looking at the different service providers out there, the ones that are the most convenient for our users, the ones that have the widest availability of products. Yeah. And so at the moment we are just moving on to another service provider, and one of our other service providers we've had to just disable temporarily. But it's just a temporary thing, so I'm sorry if it's been inconveniencing you. If you try to go and find that merchant that you've been shopping at, but now it's not available, that's just temporary. Yeah. So we're hoping the next few days that those merchants will come back, and then we'll have a whole lot more. So we just wanted to make that announcement that we are aware that there are a lot of merchants now missing from the store, but they are going to come back. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thanks for being patient with us. If you just keep looking back, you'll then be able to see those merchants come back, as well as a whole lot of others.
Yeah. And for those who haven't downloaded the Centbee app, come on, this is the time that you should be and get to explore all the shopping options we have there. So just check it out on the stores. Remember to comment, show some love. Yeah, you know the drill by now. Yeah, Ms. G, as we step into our second segment, last week we spoke of, in a previous episode, we spoke of Dr. Owen Vaughan. He mentioned multiple blockchains, being interconnecting or interoperating in a sense. But we constantly speak of one blockchain and also firmly believe like there should be one blockchain. Like, what is that all about?
Right. I think let's get stuck into that because, what we live in right now is a world of multiple blockchains. And many people still think that because every blockchain seems to be different and do something different, have a different focus or maybe a different way that it secures the network, that it doesn't seem sensible that there should only be a single blockchain. And yet we've made the statement many times that we don't believe there's going to be many blockchains. In the same way that we have a single internet, that's kind of how we see blockchain playing out. Now remember, blockchain is also just a protocol, which is a word that just means a design for how something works. And the internet protocol, which is that TCP/IP protocol, and there's a few other protocols that work alongside the internet protocol, like the HTTP protocol, which is for how you display web pages, and the email protocol, SMTP, how emails move around the network. The internet protocol, it's a single protocol, and everyone uses that protocol and innovates on top of that protocol. So we don't need many different internet protocols to be able to use the internet. And in fact, for reasons that we can dive into, it makes more sense to have a single internet. And that's what the world is that we live in. We live in this one internet world. It's just simpler and easier and more standardized. So even though Dr. Vaughan has got a proposal and is working out a solution on how to interact with multiple blockchains, this seems to us, at least, a single blockchain just makes more sense. And the multiple blockchains, at the moment, that's a temporary issue that we have to deal with while the whole space works itself out. There are blockchains out there that are trying to do very different things from how Bitcoin has been treated traditionally. If you just think about the Ethereum network, they have gone and said they want to create a kind of world computer where people can run decentralized apps or dApps. And that means that they need a specific kind of runtime environment, a place to run software in a decentralized way on this novel blockchain that has smart contracting with Solidity built into it. And when people look at that Ethereum network, they say, well, that's very different from Bitcoin, because isn't Bitcoin just peer-to-peer electronic cash? And BTC, of course, is trying to be gold, digital gold. So it seems that on the surface that BSV or Bitcoin is very different in its aims from Ethereum. People think that Bitcoin isn't supposed to be a smart contracting platform, although, of course, as we've said many times on the show, Bitcoin was always built to be a smart contracting platform, as well as a Turing complete platform, which means that you can run general little smart contract, little programs on the network. So the question is it necessary to have a blockchain which runs smart contracts, or can all these other blockchains out there, Cardano and Solana and Ripple, can all of that, all those ideas that people are running with on those blockchains, could they be consolidated into a single blockchain, and in particular the Bitcoin BSV blockchain? And of course, if you understand BSV blockchain, you realize that not only can BSV do every single thing that these other blockchains are doing, but because of its massive scale, and we talked about Terranode from the blockchain conference, it's now actually possible to not only run the activity that's happening on the BSV blockchain, but every single activity that's happening on every other blockchain could be right now run on the BSV blockchain.
That's why I was saying, sorry to jump in there, but that's why I was saying, to my understanding, I really thought, having multiple blockchains, they are still, it's still a sort of like a derived idea of a BSV blockchain versus having like Ethereum and all of these, because I'm thinking about the technology behind the scalability, the security, and all of that. So I see it as only possible on like the BSV blockchain.
Yes, remember the only reason all these other blockchains exist really is because BTC, when Bitcoin started out, of course, it had that 1 megabyte limit.
Yeah.
And guys like Vitalik Buterin, who started up the Ethereum blockchain, realized that with that 1 megabyte cap, it would be impossible because of the fees and all that, to be able to run a smart contracting platform in the way that he envisaged it.
Yeah.
And so it was because of the limitations that the BTC community enforced on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And of course, also the fact that the BTC community also wanted to change the protocol. They implemented SegWit, which was a radical deviation from the original Bitcoin design.
Definitely was.
And replaced by fee. Or they were changing that protocol. And so all these other blockchains realized, well, BTC is hobbled and is handicapped. First of all, by enforcing an artificial limit on the block size, which was always meant to be temporary, and then fiddling with the actual protocol as well. And if you want to be able to build for the long term on a blockchain, you can't have people fiddling around with that protocol. Who decides how to do that, and is it going to affect the work that you've done, the apps that you've done?
Already sounds like a crazy world. Imagine if like our internet protocol wasn't stable.
Yes, if the internet protocol has not changed in decades. So this is the reason why we have all these different multiple blockchains, is because everyone said, well, Bitcoin can't do any of this stuff anymore. It's been hobbled, it's been changed, it's been handicapped, limited, and so, well, we're going to go and try and build a blockchain that doesn't have those limitations. And that's what created this massively fragmented world of blockchain. Of course, most of the blockchains out there are just pump and dump schemes and ways to get people to to take their money. But of course, there are projects out there that are trying to create a blockchain that is flexible and can have all sorts of functionality. And that's why we have Cardano, that's why we have Ethereum, that's why we have Solana. Now, the only thing about those blockchains is that they have also changed the way the Bitcoin protocol worked. That very careful design that Satoshi Nakamoto came up with over years of development, not just because it was the 2008 financial crisis. And so Satoshi Nakamoto managed to put the right ingredients together that would make a scalable, very feature-rich blockchain, at least capable of many features. He put those ingredients together in just the right sort of way to be able to create this incredible system that not only can it be cheap to run, it can also be regulatory compliant. And that is a very critical aspect around the original Bitcoin protocol in BSV. Whereas a lot of these other blockchains, they don't have all those ingredients. They've got some of those ingredients, but they are trying new things, novel things that don't seem to be aligned with the idea that Satoshi had of creating this stable, scalable, regulatory compliant blockchain. A lot of these blockchains are not able to achieve that.
It's quite ironic, Ms. G, because if we look into those blockchains, specifically into what they are trying to achieve, all of that is possible, like in the BSV blockchain. So it's like, I don't understand like the whole deriving of a knockoff idea that doesn't even meet the actual standard of innovation.
Well, this is what has to happen now. We need to have this playing out of all these experiments. And eventually it's going to get to a point where people look around and say, right, which blockchain is demonstrating the scale and the scalability? And when we look at BSV blockchain, there is no other game in town.
There's a walkover, man. Like, there's no competition.
There's no competition, as well as a lot of important patents that have been around that N-Chain hold around that BSV blockchain. And without those very important innovations, then it's going to be really difficult for those other blockchains to catch up, unless they want to incorporate those patents into their blockchain. So it just seems, if you want to see how the space is going to play out, then it just seems obvious right now that there is only one blockchain. And if you are serious about wanting to create a business, or you have a new idea that you want to implement on a blockchain, if you want to find a blockchain that is scalable and low cost, there is only one blockchain. But that being said, obviously that is going to lead to a consolidation. But there are lots of other reasons why a single blockchain world is more likely than a world that has multiple blockchains all trying to achieve something similar, or something, around that space of decentralization and data transparency. So I guess that's what we can now dive into, is the reasons why, all things being equal, why a single blockchain world seems more likely than not.
I mean, if you're talking multiple blockchains, that already sounds complex in terms of how they're going to connect or communicate with each other. How does that happen?
Yes, that's the first problem. Is that if you have multiple blockchains, you have to figure out a way, and this is obviously what Dr. Vaughan has been working on, for them to communicate with each other. It's very important to have interoperability, because if you have a system that needs to talk to a different system, and they are different, they don't have the same standards or anything, then it becomes complicated. There's friction involved.
Because I can imagine, already that means the protocols are not the same.
Yes, if the protocols are not the same, it means now that there is no natural way for them to interoperate.
Sort of like a unified standard.
There's no unified standard. They're different. And so you have to find a way to create a bridge from one to the other. Now, as soon as you've inserted that bridge, you've created a point of friction. You've made the communication between those two protocols complicated and expensive, and something that has to be managed.
I can imagine,
And also, they're not standardized. In other words, data on one blockchain might have a different structure or a different form. It might have missing information. And so you have to figure out, how do we get information from one blockchain to seamlessly work with another blockchain without introducing extra complexity, which can introduce errors, making sure that the data from one blockchain can fit with the data on the other blockchain. So that's the first thing that we can see here.
It's complex.
Is that as soon as you have multiple blockchains, you're now introducing complexity, because you have to have a system that allows information to move from one to the other. You can't just create a standard and allow users just to say, all right, well, that's the standard. This is how information is used and how it's formed. And this is how we're going to communicate. No, now it becomes complex. And we know that in any system, if there is friction, then we're going to be trying to remove that friction. And the simplest way to remove that friction is to say, well, let's just have a single protocol, a single set of rules that makes it easy for us to be able to interoperate. And there won't be any errors or any complexity, any friction, any costs that now creep in there. So if we want to have a world where blockchain becomes a seamless part of our lives, then having a single blockchain, clearly, just like having a single internet, is going to be the most efficient and effective way of doing that. So that is a critical thing in interoperability and standardization. And this is, you can imagine, this is a deep subject, something that Dr. Vaughan is looking at, trying to figure out. And there are other protocols out there on other blockchains. I know of Polkadot, they're trying to do the same sort of thing, but it's complex, it introduces friction, it really makes things more difficult.
I can imagine, Ms. G, because already we are trying to simplify the whole aspect of how the blockchain itself can be integrated in all the industries and simplify things. You know what I'm saying? And there's only one blockchain that ticks all those boxes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it means that if you have that one blockchain, everything's immediately standardized and interoperable.
Yeah. So yeah, Ms. G, we spoke about, the importance of having a stable foundation,
Yes.
and how it helps in creating businesses or building on top of it.
Yes, it's important to always bring this up because, of course, when we see other blockchains, especially the BTC blockchain, having the ability, at least the philosophy around changing that protocol is clearly something that is going to always introduce instability and unpredictability in the future. Yeah. And the internet protocol itself was something that was fixed. And because of that, it was a predictable protocol, a predictable environment for innovators, for entrepreneurs, and for venture capitalists and investors to say, right, we know that this is going to be the protocol and it's not going to change. Mm-hmm. And so that means if we invest time and money and resources into this protocol, then we won't have to change things down the line. Yeah. Again, a protocol is like a foundation to a building.
Yes.
If you change that protocol and you've got a building on top of it and you've changed the foundation, well, the building's going to have to change. It becomes unstable and falls apart, and you have to go and maintain it, and you have to rip things out, and you have to put things back in. So you've invested a lot of time and a lot of money in building this beautiful house on top of this foundation. You want to make sure that those foundations are going to be set in stone and fixed and stable. Yeah. Now, a lot of people will say, well, then how on earth can we innovate? How can we create new ideas, new things? How can we create new features, new innovations? Remember, the internet protocol hasn't changed, and yet the internet has been innovating for decades now, because it's not the protocol that needs to innovate. Yeah. The protocol needs to be fixed and set. Stable. It just governs how information is transacted or how information moves across that network. It doesn't determine the features and the capabilities. Yeah. That information, at least that innovation, is built on top. Just like you have a house that you want to now add a room, or you want to build a tower, or you want to add a two-door garage for your jet skis and your Lamborghini, then you don't go and change the foundations. You just go and build onto the house. You renovate a room, you knock down a wall, you build a tower, you do all this stuff. So innovation doesn't need to happen on the protocol level. It happens on top of the protocol.
On top of it, yeah.
So it's worth repeating. I mean, we've talked about how interoperability is so important and that, but it's always going to be important to remember that as long as that protocol is stable, then we can have this innovation. Yeah. But if it's an unstable protocol, well, we're not going to have predictability, and we're going to have uncertainty, and people are not going to be willing to invest money and time and resources
into a no-brainer.
Building it. Exactly. Yeah. It is a no-brainer.
I mean, it doesn't make sense for people to want to invest. Like we've been saying, BTC is just about them pumping whatever ideology they want into them having to enrich themselves.
Yes.
But BSV is about the tech and how it can expand the real world and problems that we have.
Yes. And also the idea of a fixed protocol, and we've touched on this on another episode, on our decentralized episode. I think it was titled Bitcoin is Not Decentralized.
Oh, yeah.
And if you can change the protocol, who's changing it? Who's in charge?
Yeah.
Which people have been given the superpowers and the privilege to be able to change that? And of course, as soon as you can change a protocol, we by definition have a centralized system, because somebody's doing that change. Yeah. Even if it's a group of people, that change is being made by a select group of people, and that immediately means that it's centralized.
Definitely. And we've also spoken about the economic efficiency it would have, because I mean, we can already see how it's complex just for mere transactions on the BTC network. There has to be layer on layer and layer.
Yes.
And with every layer, there's a cost to it.
That's right. As soon as you add complexity, as soon as you have that friction that we talked about. Yeah. So jumping from one blockchain to the other, means that you're going to have extra costs.
Yeah.
Because somebody's got to be managing that bridge, and there has to be some benefit to whoever's operating that bridge. So yes, of course, when you talk about efficiency, cost is a very important thing about blockchain. And if we want to make sure that blockchain succeeds, it has to be very, very, very low cost.
Yeah.
And so even introducing one little extra step is going to increase the cost, and you're not going to have such an efficient system.
Yeah.
You're going to have to compete with another system that does have that reduced cost.
Yeah.
So again, it's about economics, as you say,
Dave.
and efficiency.
Yeah. But we need to, I think, expand it more into the economics, because, resources, the cost of having the warehouses, if we just focus it on literally just one blockchain, all the research, all the manpower, I think we would actually get quicker to our goal as a society.
That's right. If you now are building on two different blockchains, if you've got one blockchain here, one blockchain there, you now have to split your resources. You have to figure out how one blockchain works. You're going to have people who are skilled on that blockchain, and then you're going to have to figure out how the other blockchain works, and that's going to take time and effort and resources. You can't just have one set of skills, one set of people working on this thing. You've got two different protocols, and that's not efficient either. So another important reason why having a single blockchain is just more economically efficient. You don't have to worry about multiple skill sets. Everything is standardized, one skill set, and everybody knows what's going on. So a very important aspect as well.
Dave, I think also another important aspect is the consumer side. Like, it just simplifies the experience, like, for users versus all these complex stuff, like having to go, it's a lot, Mr. G, just to transact on the BTC network,
Yeah, no, that's another thing that you mentioned from a consumer point of view. If you have multiple blockchains, then apps aren't interoperable. At the moment, it's really easy on BSV. If you want to send money to a Handcash wallet or Rock Wallet or another one of these BSV services, it's so simple. All you've got to do is just send your BSV to that service, and then you can go and immediately start using it. There isn't a swap that you need to do. Often people are, if you are in crypto, you're trying to swap from one crypto to the next so that you can go onto this system. So a single blockchain, again, just makes everything so much more, again, interoperable in terms of the consumer side of things, the apps. There are so many services now that it's easy and seamless to be able to interact with. Again, if you think about the internet, if I want to send you an email and you have a different service, if I'm on Gmail and you're using Hotmail or something,
doesn't matter.
It doesn't make a difference. Email is email. It's one protocol. We don't have to go through some kind of bridge to be able to send email to each other. So if we want services that work together, and we can build out an ecosystem of compatible services. A single blockchain, again, is just the most efficient and cheapest way of doing that. It means that we have much more choice. We don't only have one single, at least we don't only have a small group of services available on this blockchain. And then if we want to go and use another set of services on a different blockchain, how do we do that? There's all that interoperability issue. So it definitely means that there is more scope for choice. Everybody's working on the same protocol. That means everything is automatically interoperable, and that's the world we want.
That's a seamless world, man. That's super cool and easy, because you're not limited to where you are.
So all this really speaks to what we call the network effect. Basically, it boils down to the more people and the more services available in a network, the more valuable it becomes. Because if you think about social networks, if you want to use a social network but none of your friends are on that social network, then it's just not that cool. You're going to be posting, no one's going to be caring, and you're not going to be able to see anything. So it's very important to have a network effect where there are as many services available and as many users on that network, so it can become valuable to you. So again, having all these different fragmented blockchains means that there could be services and users on one blockchain, services and users on another blockchain, but they don't interoperate, and so we don't have that network effect.
Okay.
So that's a really important thing. You'll get more adoption. People will say, right, I want to use this blockchain because there are more services, more capabilities, more users on that as well. It's really an important thing. If we want to have a useful blockchain, that if we have a single blockchain, it just becomes much more useful to us and more valuable to us because of those network effects.
Cool. Yeah, Ms. G, I mean, if we're going to be talking regulation and multiple blockchains, that already like complicates things, because at this point we know that BSV is not crypto, and crypto on its side has never like been like vocal about transparency.
That's the crypto word, hidden.
Yeah, and we know that for the BSV side of things, it's always been about that. Like that's why, you know, previously you went to the Reg Tech conference, you know, like this regulation thing is still a hot topic basically in the space. But how is that going to work now that there's multiple blockchains? Because it just, we spoke about the complexity that's introduced. Like now this just already throws off the regulators.
It does. When you have a system that's not traceable,
Yeah.
that clearly is going to be a red flag for regulation. Now, we've often spoken about how BSV blockchain, Bitcoin, was built with regulation in mind.
Yeah.
That's why it is a transparent ledger, a traceable ledger.
Yeah.
But if we are now going to have multiple blockchains, it means that traceability is broken. And in fact, interestingly, this is why Lightning Network is also going to be something that doesn't conform to regulation, because when you move transactions off the Bitcoin network into Lightning, suddenly you've lost that traceability. So if I'm sending transactions from one blockchain to the other, immediately you break the traceability of those transactions and the auditability. To have multiple blockchains means essentially you've got multiple books. If you think about accounting, so if you have multiple books, then there's opportunities for fraud. So having a single blockchain means that we have a single ledger, and every single transaction from the beginning to the end is traceable and transparent to a regulator.
Because honestly, like it was already like you were saying, like the complexity was intensifying, because I'm thinking transactions, if we can trace it in the BSV blockchain, cool, that we can pick up. But immediately when it leaves that blockchain, it becomes something else.
It disappears. So I can see payments, and then suddenly,
poof,
it's gone.
There's
no more traceability. Why? Because activity has moved to a different blockchain. Now, it's really difficult to try and reconcile that. And so from an auditor's perspective, they're not going to have a clear, immutable set of records that shows the whole picture. And this is why systems like Chainalysis breaks down. These guys that's a business that's all about trying to trace and track payments so that law enforcement can find money launderers. And this is something that I even spoke to them about a few years ago. I said, well, what happens when somebody switches over into another blockchain? Well, that's it. They lose the trace.
That's crazy.
Yes, it is crazy. So from a regulation point of view, having multiple blockchains is akin to having multiple books in a business. And that's exactly where fraud can creep in.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, damn, that sounds like a formula to cook the books, actually.
That's exactly what it can be used for.
Because to your point, you spoke about immutability.
Yes.
And that's also one thing that, you know, the BSV blockchain sort of like holds as a feature.
That's right.
You know, so it just doesn't make sense.
Definitely. If a blockchain can't operate within a regulatory framework, if it doesn't tick all the boxes that a regulator wants, and remember, when it comes to payments, those rules are in place. Payments must be traceable. If you are able to move money through multiple blockchains and constantly hide your tracks, how on earth is that going to be something that regulatory governing bodies or organizations can tolerate? So this is again why, if we want to have a blockchain world, we have to ensure that it conforms to whatever rules there are around payments and transactions. And having a single blockchain means that you can't cook the books.
Yeah.
You can't change any information.
Yeah.
Everything is there in plain sight. It's a system that eliminates fraud. As I said in the talk at the RegTech conference, Bitcoin was built for regulation.
Yeah.
It's a regulation tool.
Yeah.
But having multiple blockchains means that suddenly that all just disappears. And you are going to have to try and convince a regulator that, yes, it's okay if I have a blockchain and then we switch out into a different blockchain. Don't worry, we'll ensure that the records are there or something. But you can't promise that.
Yeah.
So this is why, again, if you just think about it and just to kind of summarize in a way, if we want to have a blockchain world, there are so many reasons: efficiency, interoperability, regulation, that are guiding and pushing the blockchain ecosystem into a single blockchain world.
Yeah.
And if we genuinely do have a blockchain that can facilitate all these wonderful things that other blockchains are trying, smart contracting, and of course all the basic stuff that BSV provides, that immutability, that stability, traceability, scalability, so important, then it really means that there is no use for any other blockchain. And in fact, having other blockchains is going to hold back the ecosystem, because forever regulators will be unhappy and uncomfortable with the fact that there is no way to be able to seamlessly trace payments through a system or transactions through a system back to its source, thereby ticking that box of traceability. Of course, again, we live in a world right now where blockchain is still an experiment, and there are still people out there experimenting with blockchain, trying to figure out how to get it to work. But at the end of the day, we don't know how long this is going to take, but clearly it needs to converge onto a single protocol, just like the internet converged onto a single protocol. It made things cheaper, things were standardized. If you had skill sets, they applied across the board. You didn't have to worry about multiple skill sets. If you have a mining network, you now have resources that could be shared. For example, Centbee, now we are looking at services like Jungle Bus. Because we're operating on a single blockchain, it means that we can let other service providers and businesses do some of the heavy lifting for us. Now, if we have multiple blockchains out there, does that mean we're going to have relationships and commercial agreements and service fees for all these different blockchains? No, we just need to have one blockchain plan. So I don't know how long this is going to take. I think that BSV right now is demonstrating something that other blockchains haven't been able to even come close to achieving, which is that massive scale, plus the philosophy of a stable protocol. And so it's just a matter of time before people, at least people who are really looking at blockchain as a solution, they're going to skip over every other blockchain, and they're going to come to BSV and say, right, well, that seems to be the best protocol. And with that will come the network effects, the users, the services, the apps, and all that. Those communities in that blockchain will be able to share resources and share skills, and we're going to end up with a single blockchain world. To me, it just seems inevitable.
It is, Mr. G. I mean, we have a one internet world. We have probably the top 3 businesses or companies in the world are internet companies. So it just shows that we need like a stable foundation to have a sort of like stable future, and BSV offers that.
Sure does.
Yeah, sure guys. Remember to check out the app on the stores, and also just plug your friends, family, get them to subscribe, man, because this is the pretty much the youngest and freshest plug you can get, like real information about the BSV blockchain, just clarifying all the confusing stuff out there. So just remember to plug people, subscribe, comment, show some love. You know the drill by now. Mobile Money on Fire. Cool. Yeah, Ms. G. We're gonna be stepping into this week's user questions and feedback on socials. First one comes from Hobo Steez Media.
Hobo Steez.
Yeah.
Shout out Hobo Steez.
He's saying awesome content from the London blockchain conference.
Cool. Yeah, that was our previous episode. We talked about the conference and who we saw there and our booth and stuff. So if you haven't seen that, episode, check out episode 32 for the London Blockchain Conference. Both Kage and I were at the conference and we were rocking it there.
Sure. Thanks, overseas. Our second one comes from the Real newspaper, and they are saying, love to hear about it. I'll catch you guys next year. That would be cool. Probably
at the next conference.
At the next conference, yeah. They're probably gonna.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a year away, but life goes quickly.
It does, really does, Mushi. Yeah. So our third one comes from Cornell. Sup, Cornell? He's saying it was great to be there at the London Blockchain Conference and see all the innovations around BSV. It's amazing to see practical solutions to BTC scaling issues and how BSV can handle so much more. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Cornell.
Thanks, Cornell. It's great to have you there.
Yeah. Our fourth one comes from eFlipper. He's saying so much knowledge. Thanks. Thumbs up.
Yeah, I mean that's what this show is. It's we want to share knowledge.
Yeah.
We want to try and inform you so that you can make the right decisions around which blockchain and why BSV.
Yeah.
Why are we so passionate about BSV? Why? Watch the show, and we're going to tell you exactly why. We're not just doing this because we're emotional or whatever. We are a business, and we want to make the right decision. We want to spend our money wisely.
Yeah.
And when it comes to BSV blockchain, to us, that's it. That's the only game in town. There is no other blockchain. There is no second best. We are here to tell you exactly why we're making these decisions so that they can inform your decisions as well. And if there is anything we say here that you totally disagree with, please just bring it to the comment section. We love seeing the feedback there. And if you have a disagreement with us, I'm happy to engage you. And if you have something valid to say, then who knows, maybe we'll learn and we can at least not make those same mistakes.
Straight up. Thanks, Vici. Yeah, sure. Thanks, eFlipper. Our fifth one actually comes from Bridget, and she's saying, bravo. Absolutely love you guys. Lightning explanation convo was one of the best I've heard.
Awesome. Thanks, Bridget. We love you too.
That's cool, man. I dig it when actually people highlight the sort of like the learnings they get from the show,
Yes.
It shows that they are actually engaging.
Yes, check out the Lightning episode if you want to understand why we think Lightning Network is a boondoggle and not going to work and is bad for the world.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Vijay. I think we've come to the end of our episode.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Feels good actually to getting back to regular schedule.
Yes, it does, and it's great to be able to still keep doing these shows, but we still don't know how it's going to turn out. We have an inkling, I guess, from the internet that apps and businesses were formed around the internet that changed our lives.
Yeah.
Search engines, social media, video streaming, ride sharing, house sharing, whatever. I mean, just think about the millions of different things you can do on the internet now that you can't live without. Mm-hmm. And it just seems that blockchain is exactly that sort of thing. Yeah. This protocol that at the most basic level seems kind of boring, just this data network, but yet will enable so many things that I definitely don't know how it's going to turn out. But it's super exciting.
It is.
And at least what we are doing here is trying to put people on the right track so they don't get stuck down a rabbit hole that's going to waste time and money. I mean, the crypto mindset and the investment mindset, that's a bad rabbit hole that's going to get you stuck, and it's going to strip you of your resources and your energy and your life.
It's like a black hole, man.
It's a black hole. Yeah. So maybe we can at least help you avoid those pitfalls. Yeah. And you can be as excited as we are about the potential of this blockchain and what you can do with it. So that's the point of this show. It's to paint a picture of the future, but you're going to have to create that future. We're trying to create a bit of it, with Centbee Wallet. But that's just one tiny little smidgen of its capabilities. Mm-hmm. And so we are super excited to see how this whole space is going to evolve over the next decade or 2 decades.
Most definitely. It's super exciting, man.
Yeah.
So that's why these guys who haven't downloaded the app must check it out, subscribe. Because if you're not actually using a mobile wallet like Centbee by now, you're missing out, man. Like we were saying, we're just trying to plug you, get the taste of the future, where it's headed. So yeah, just download the app, explore the power of BSV through Centbee, yo. Mobile money on fire.
Cool stuff. All right. Well, Kage, that's it then. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Thanks for the show.
Thanks, SG.
And I want to thank everybody for joining us here on the Centbee show. Please come back soon. Booyah.